I'm using the autofocus on the GH5, and you know, we've spoken before about how twitchy and weird that is, so yeah, I'm skeptical whether I'm actually in focus at all. So you know, in the last video when I said that if I'm going to talk about a camera or a lens, it would be because I think said camera or lens is cool. How about this for cool? Come on, focus, you bloody thing. Hello. There we go. There we go. This is the Nikon AW100, an all-weather camera, which is you know, good for all weather. Not that we've really got any weather to speak of. It's just typically grey here in England right now. But let's get some pictures. Right, so what the hell is this camera and why did I buy it? Well, after using Lee's Olympus TG6 a little bit back, I decided to want one of these types of cameras, so I had a look around at the various camera companies to see what was available, and I came across a surprising amount of this type of camera, these all-weather cameras. But like with all compacts, the prices were all quite dumb. So eventually I stumbled across this at what I thought was a reasonable price of £75, and given the price of compacts like across the board now, I didn't think that was too bad. And I did a little bit of research before I bought it, and by research I mean I had a cursory glance at the internet spec sheet, and had I spent just like a minute actually properly looking at this camera, I would have probably not bought it, because, well, there's a couple of things that make it a bit, well, crap, honestly. But I'll get to them in a minute. Firstly, let's have a quick look around the camera and get the spec rubbish out of the way. I'm not going to go into depth, so don't worry, it's not going to be too long. And then I'll show you some pictures that I've already taken with this, because I've been out on a couple of occasions with this camera. And then we're going to talk about the two things, well, mainly one main thing, but it's two things that are kind of tied together, which would have made me probably not buy this camera. Okay, so the basics. It's got a 16 megapixel 1/2.3 inch sensor, a zoom range of 28 to 140mm full frame equivalent, which is the same as my Canon G10, and it also has an additional digital zoom that will take it all the way to 560mm full frame equivalent if you want to, but of course digital zoom equals cropping, so you're losing some resolution by using this. With that said, the AW100 does feature Nikon's VR image stabilization, so you should have no worries getting a steady shot, even at that extended focal length. It will shoot full 1080p video at 30 frames per second, as well as some other slow motion modes, but the 1080p video looks and sounds like this. So, the AW100, given its intended use, is waterproof up to 10 meters, about 33 feet. It's shockproof from about 1.5 meters, or about 5 feet, and apparently freeze-proof down to like -10 Celsius or 14 degrees Fahrenheit, though I doubt we're ever going to see those kind of temperatures in this particular part of England. So now the things I wish I'd known before I bought this camera. So the first one, and the less annoying of the two, and one that I actually knew about because it was on the spec sheet, is that this only shoots JPEG in various sizes up to 16 megapixels. There is no RAW shooting, which I would have preferred, but you know, it is what it is. Now, super annoying bit about this camera, and the thing that makes me reluctant to want to recommend this camera in any way, is the amount of over sharpening on those JPEGs. Now, I've been in the menus and looking around in this camera, and I can't find any way to reduce or turn off that sharpening. And now it does have a bunch of like filters and sort of art effects and that kind of stuff. And then there is one that's just called soft, which I presumed would be some sort of like defocus or maybe like an Orton effect type deal. But that's kind of all the way the opposite direction to the over sharpening. You know, it's too soft. It's kind of unusable to the point of looking kind of mushy and, well, garbage. Now, as I've said before regarding cameras that only shoot JPEG, my go-to is to go into the camera menus and turn that sharpening all the way off, because you can always add sharpening in post to taste, but you can't take it away without it looking garbage. Now, as I've said, this camera does have a bunch of different modes, and this isn't something that happens in every mode, but in the auto mode, which is like the mode I would use for like everyday shooting, it's excessive. So as a last-ditch effort to combat this over sharpening, I used the included filter attachment, which literally just clips over the lens like that, and it has a thread on there, but it's a 40.5mm thread, and all of my filters are like 77mm, so I had to use some step-up rings, and well, you end up with something that looks like that, which John thought was highly amusing. Now, of course, that is awkward and cumbersome to use, but I'm not going to buy new filters, not at that size, because I don't need them. So, yeah, guess I'll just have to try and tackle it in post. Now, I didn't expect great image quality from a camera like this, but not even having the controls to dial back that sharpening is a little bit annoying. Now, with all that said, though, it is a fun little camera to use, not least because of the design of the thing. It's meant for, you know, being submerged in water and all that kind of stuff. So when the weather does go a bit grim, I'm not afraid to use it, and it doesn't get, you know, distracting me trying to protect my gear. Because even though I have cameras like the EM1 Mark II and the Canon cameras and all that sort of stuff, and they all have weather sealing, I don't know, it's still, I try to protect the gear, and by doing that I lose sight of what I'm actually trying to photograph, if that makes any sense. With that little thing though, I don't care if I break it. I don't like it anyway. As long as I can get the shot, I'm not going to worry about the condition of the camera. You know, get the job done. So would I recommend this camera? Absolutely not. Literally just because of the JPEG and the over sharpening thing. It's just not good. You know, other cameras managed to do it better. Don't buy that one. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts, specifically if you have any of these all-weather type cameras, ones that can shoot RAW and JPEG and or have some control over that over sharpening. That would be awesome. Leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching.